Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
Let's dive in, because this story has been a weight in my chest for months, a melody I couldn't shake, sharp and haunting. Its tempo pulling me under until I finally let it fade to find my own rhythm again. A song I didn't know I could write. It wasn't a loud betrayal, no lipstick smudged on a jacket like in some overplayed torch song. No late night calls I wasn't meant to overhear. No fights that echoed through the brick walls of our city apartment. It was a concert ticket, a single stub, creased and faded, for a jazz show at the Blue Note, left carelessly on our kitchen counter one Wednesday morning. Nora rushed out for what she called a band rehearsal. We'd been married 4 or 5 years, Nora and I, the kind of couple who seemed in tune to our neighbors in this vibrant city of lights and sound, shared smiles at music festivals, hands brushing at open mic nights. Our loft apartment filled with vinyl records, spinning Coltrane and Monk, the air alive with the hum of my piano lessons and her violin practice. I was a music teacher, spending my days at a community center, teaching kids to find their notes on beat-up pianos, the air thick with the sound of scales, laughter, and the occasional sour chord. Nora was a violinist in a local jazz band, her fingers dancing across strings with a precision that could hush a crowded venue. Her performance is a spark that lit up any stage, her boa wand weaving magic into the air. We had a scrappy beagle, Charlie, who napped by my piano, his soft snores blending with the gentle chords I played at night, a constant companion in my daily rhythm. Our life felt like a well-composed piece, balanced, vibrant, with room for improvisation. Each day a new verse in a song we were writing together, but lately, the tempo between us had shifted, her smiles fleeting, saved for phone calls she took on the balcony, her laughter drifting through the glass door, bright and melodic, but no longer in key with mine, like a duet where one player had changed the score. I noticed the ticket because it wasn't ours. Nora and I always went to shows together, pinning stubs to a corkboard in our hallway, a Miles Davis tribute at the Village Vanguard, an Ella Fitzgerald cover night at a local dive, each stub a memory of nights we'd sway together, her head on my shoulder, the music binding us. But this one, for a Tuesday night jazz show, was new. Its date from a night shed claimed a solo practice session at the studio, a night he'd spent grading student compositions alone. Charlie curled at my feet. I picked up the ticket, the paper soft and worn, as if it had been carried in a pocket for too long, and saw a handwritten note scrawled on the back in sharp, slanted ink. Nora, you were magic last night, Jay. My name's Ethan. The J hit like a dissonant chord, a note out of place in the melody of our life, a whisper of something wrong that settled in my gut like static before a song, crackling and persistent, disrupting the rhythm my thoughts we shared. I stood in the kitchen, Charlie nudging my leg with his wet nose, his tail wagging obliviously, his brown eyes looking up at me as if nothing had changed, and I studied the ticket, turning it over in my hands, my mind racing with questions I wasn't ready to voice. Was it a bandmate's ticket, left behind after a group rehearsal? A fan's, slipped to her after a gig? A mix-up from the venue, dropped on our counter during a chaotic day? I told myself it was nothing, a stray stub from a band outing, maybe forgotten after a setlist discussion, but doubt crept in, soft and stubborn, like a flat note in a melody, threatening the harmony of the life we'd built together, note by note, gig by gig. I left the ticket where it was, planning to ask casually when she got home, to keep my voice steady and light, like a teacher encouraging a shy student, to avoid the accusation I could already hear her deflecting with that bright, practiced laugh she used to charm audiences and venue managers alike. But the question stuck in my throat when she walked in, her cheeks flushed with a glow I hadn't seen in months, her eyes bright with a spark that felt distant, like it belonged to a Nora I no longer knew. A stranger wearing my wife's smile. Late rehearsal, she said, dropping her violin case by the door, kicking off her boots, and planting a quick kiss on my cheek, her new cedarwood perfume sharp and unfamiliar. Not the jasmine one he'd bought her for our 3rd anniversary, the one she'd said smelled like our first date. I nodded, forcing a smile that felt like playing a chord I couldn't quite hit, but the jailing it in my thoughts, a sharp note jarring every time I tried to ignore it. Every time I tried to convince myself I was overthinking a creased piece of paper, no bigger than my palm. The next day, I couldn't let it go. The ticket, the perfume, her distracted smile, they looped in my head. A discordant refrain I couldn't silence, like a song stuck on a scratched record, its needle skipping over the same painful groove. While Nora was at a gig prep session, I did something I'd never done before. I searched her bag, my hands trembling as guilt knotted my stomach like a tangled violin string, its tension threatening to snap. The ticket was gone, its absence louder than its presence, as if it had been reclaimed by someone who knew its significance, someone who wasn't me. But inside a side pocket, I found a folded venue flyer, dated for a night she'd claimed a solo studio session, listing a jazz trio performance with her name, alongside Julian as co-performer. The ink smudged as if it had been tucked away in haste. My heart sank, heavy and offbeat, like a drum missing its cue in a performance, the impact reverberating through me, shaking the foundation of our life. Who had she performed with that night? Why had she lied about being alone, when he'd been home, grading scales, believing we were still in sync? Was this a one-off, a friendly collaboration, or the start of something deeper, something that had taken root while I was teaching kids to play Twinkle in a community center, thinking we were still a duet? I photographed the flyer with my phone, my fingers clumsy, my breath shallow, and slipped it back exactly as he'd found it, my pulse loud in my ears, drowning out Charlie's curious bark. He nudged my leg, sensing the shift in my mood, his head tilted as if asking what was wrong. That evening, over a dinner of her risotto cooked distractedly, the rice too soft, the herbs unevenly mixed, she was glued to her phone, texting with a smile she didn't share with me, her fingers dancing across the screen with a rhythm that excluded me entirely, as if I were a backing track in our own home. Band stuff, she said, her voice too bright, too practiced, as she angled the phone away, her eyes avoiding mine, as if I were a stranger sitting across the table. I didn't push, didn't want to hear the lie I knew was coming, but the doubt grew, a shadow shifting the key of our life, dimming the warmth of our music-filled loft, where we'd once spun records and laughed over missed notes. Later, as she slept, her breathing soft and untroubled, her hair spilling across the pillow used to, when we'd stay up late jamming to Coltrane, her violin weaving through my piano chords, her laughter harmonizing with mine. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Julian echoing in my mind like a wrong chord, a note that didn't belong in our song. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed more than a ticket and a flyer, more than a gut feeling that was tearing me apart, measure by measure, like a scored thought was complete. I needed proof I wasn't the paranoid husband she'd accused me of being if I asked the wrong question, her laugh sharp and dismissive, cutting through my resolve like a bow scraping a sow string. I thought of our early days, how we'd spend nights in my small studio, her improvising on violin while I played piano, our laughter blending as I taught her a blues riff, her fingers clumsy but eager, her eyes bright with a joy that felt like ours, a spark that lit up the air between us. We'd talk about a future where we'd open a music school, where she'd lead a jazz ensemble, where we'd host open mix in a loft filled with music and love, a life we were composing together, note by note, gig by gig. I'd thought those moments were the melody of something unbreakable, a harmony we'd crafted with care. But now they felt like discarded sheet music, crumpled and left behind, a song I'd misread. The doubt was a weight, pressing down, making it hard to breathe, as if the air in our loft had turned stale, no longer enough to sustain me. Over the next 3 weeks, I became a quiet composer, piecing together a truth I didn't want to play, each discovery a fresh sour note in the score of our marriage, like a chord progression that no longer resolved. I started noticing things I'd overlooked: her rehearsals stretching past 11 p.m., her cedarwood perfume clinging to her clothes, her wardrobe shifting to silk scarves and flowy tops she claimed were just for gigs, but wore only when leaving the loft. One morning, while she was out for a band meeting, I checked her phone, left charging on the counter, Its passcode unchanged, our anniversary date, a detail that now felt like a cruel irony, a reminder of vows that seemed to mean nothing to her. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the screen, guilt warring with a desperate need to know, my heart pounding as if I were crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But I unlocked it, scanning quickly, hating myself with every swipe, feeling like a thief in my own home, trespassing on a life that no longer felt like mine. There were texts to Julian, labeled as a bandmate Shed mentioned vaguely as the new saxophonist, someone Shed described as good with improv. Last night was electric, he wrote, dated after a late gig Shed returned from with a smile I didn't recognize, her eyes lit with a joy I hadn't seen in years, not since we'd stayed up late jamming to Kind of Blue. Her violin weaving through my chords like a second voice. Her reply, you make me feel alive, Julian, not just Ethan's wife, not just the violinist. I'm more than a role with you. Attached was a photo, them at a dimly lit venue, her hand resting on his arm, her smile unguarded, a look I hadn't seen since our early days, when we'd dance in the kitchen to Billie Holiday. Her laughter filling the space between us like a perfect cadence. My hands shook as I screenshotted the thread, emailed it to myself, and deleted the evidence from her sent folder, my vision blurring with unshed tears, the kitchen tilting as if the floor had dropped beneath me. Was this emotional? Physical? Both. The intimacy in her words, the way she gave him the parts of herself I thought were ours cut deeper than any physical betrayal could, a blade slicing through the life I thought we had, leaving me to bleed in silence. I didn't stop there. Her diary, found in her violin case, tucked under a spare set of strings, yielded more. The case was locked, but I knew the combination our first date's month and day. Another painful irony. The diary was a small leather notebook, its pages filled with her neat, flowing handwriting, confessions that read like lyrics to a song I wasn't meant to hear. Each word a betrayal I hadn't wanted to believe. Julian makes me feel seen. Not just Ethan's wife, not just the band's violinist, one entry read, dated after a late rehearsal Shed returned from glowing. Her cheeks flushed, her eyes bright with a secret she didn't share. Ethan's so steady, so safe. I need more than safety, more than routine. Safe. I'd been safe because I loved her, because I thought our life teaching music, playing gigs, dreaming of a future with a shared studio was enough, a foundation we'd built together, chord by chord, performance by performance. Another entry, from a week later. Coffee with Jay last night felt like I could breathe again, like I'm not just playing a part in Ethan's world, keeping his life in tune. Playing a part. I'd spent years balancing our budget, walking Charlie through city rain, cheering at her gigs, thinking it was partnership, not performance. Another page detailed stolen moments, coffee breaks labeled Jay, a weekend retreat that matched a night Shed come home late, smelling of cedarwood and something sweeter, like wine or deceit. Julian's music makes my heart race, she wrote, like him alive again, not just following Ethan's rhythm. I photographed every page, my hands trembling but methodical, each click of my phone a small act of preservation, a way to anchor myself against the tide of her words, which crashed over me like a discordant crescendo, threatening to drown the melody I thought we shared. I locked the diary away, the weight of her confessions settling like static in my heart, heavy and disruptive, making it hard to breathe, as if the air in our loft had turned to noise, no longer music. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed more. Needed to be sure I wasn't imagining the betrayal, that I wasn't the paranoid husband Shed accused me of being if I came at her with questions, her laugh sharp and dismissive, cutting through my resolve like a bow scraping a sour string. The thought of her brushing me off, turning my pain into a story she could rewrite as a misunderstanding, made my stomach churn, a sickening mix of fear and rage. I remembered our early days, how we'd spend nights in my tiny studio, her improvising on violin while I played piano, our laughter blending of I taught her a blues riff, her fingers clumsy but eager, her eyes bright with a joy that felt like ours, a spark that lit up the air between us like a perfect harmony. We'd talk about a future where he'd open a music school for kids, where Shed lead a jazz ensemble that toured the coast, where we'd host open mic nights in a loft filled with music and love. A life we were composing together, note by note, gig by gig. I'd thought those moments were the melody of something unbreakable, a score we'd crafted with care. But now they felt like discarded sheet music, crumpled and left behind, a song he'd misread, its chords out of tune. The doubt was a weight, pressing down, making every step heavier, every breath harder, as if I were playing a piano with broken keys, trying to force a melody from an instrument that no longer worked. I started therapy in secret, meeting Dr. Leela Hart in a small office downtown, its walls lined with faded jazz posters and a single, drooping aloe plant that looked like it was fighting to survive, much like I was. "You're not invisible," Leela said in our first session, her voice calm but piercing, her glasses slipping down her nose as she leaned forward, her pen tapping softly against her notebook. "You're starting to see yourself, maybe for the first time in years." I unpacked years of feeling like Nora's rhythm section, always organizing her gig schedules, skipping my own compositions to be there for her late-night rehearsals, thinking it was what partners did, what love meant. I'd put off my dream of writing a jazz album to save for our loft, skipped music workshops to cheer at her performances, believing it was building something together. "What has she given back?" Leela asked, her question a mirror I wasn't ready to face, its reflection showing a man who'd poured himself into a marriage that was no longer reciprocal, a duet with one player missing, offbeat and unbalanced. I didn't have an answer, not then, but it haunted me, echoing in the quiet moments when I stared at our wedding photo on the shelf, Nora's smile frozen under stage lights, her eyes bright with a promise that now felt like a lie, a chord that no longer resolved. I'd been so busy keeping her melody in tune, supporting her band, that I hadn't noticed mine fading, like the aloe in Leela's office, neglected but still clinging to life. One evening, Nora claimed a venue scout at the Blue Note, her voice light as she grabbed her bag and kissed my cheek, promising to be back by 9. Her cedarwood perfume trailing behind her like a ghost that no longer belonged in our home. I followed, parking across the street from the venue, my truck hidden behind a row of scooters, my heart pounding like a drum roll before a solo. Through the venue's glass window, I saw her with Julian. No band in sight, just them laughing over drinks at a corner table, his hand brushing her arm as they leaned close, their ease screaming an intimacy I couldn't touch. A performance I hadn't been invited to. They weren't scouting or planning, they were lost in each other. Their smiles a private melody I couldn't hear, like a set list I'd never been shown. I didn't storm in or take photos. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, my breath fogging the window, and felt the world tilt, as if the stage we'd built together had collapsed, its lights dimming under the weight of her betrayal. This wasn't a fleeting riff, it was a parallel composition, one Shed written while I was busy keeping ours in tune, grading student scales, walking Charlie, believing we were still a duet, still composing something together. I drove home, Charlie greeting me with a wagging tail, his innocence a stark contrast to the fracture in my world. The betrayal wasn't just the possibility of something physical, though the diary's hints of nights under stage lights made my stomach churn. It was the emotional theft, giving Julian the parts of her I thought were ours, her laughter, her dreams, the way she'd tilt her head when listening, a gesture that used to make me feel seen, now offered to someone else like it never existed. The pain wasn't sharp like a cut, it was dull, a bruise spreading under my skin, making every moment heavier, every memory suspect, like a song I couldn't trust anymore. I started noticing more, the way she'd check her phone before bed, angling it away even when I was half asleep, the new scarf she wore to gigs, a silk one too delicate for sweaty venues, the way she'd stopped asking about my day, as if my world, my students, my lessons, my quiet passion for composing was irrelevant to hers. I went to the city's weekly open mic night, hoping to feel normal, to reclaim a piece of myself in the familiar hum of guitars and voices. The venue smelled of beer and cedar, the crowd buzzing with chatter, but my mind wandered to Nora, to the ticket, to Julian, Mia, The venue manager who'd booked Nora's band was there, pouring drinks and joking with performers. Afterward, I pulled her aside, my voice low, hesitant, as if testing the tuning of a new string. "Does Nora seem off to you lately?" I asked, fishing for a clue without revealing my hand. Mia frowned, her eyes narrowing slightly, her fingers tightening on a rag. "She's been distracted, maybe. Always with that sax guy, Julian." "Why?" Her hesitation, the way she avoided my gaze, told me she knew more than she was saying, like she was protecting Nora's setlist. "Just worried," I muttered, but the interaction stayed with me. Another note in the growing score, a confirmation that others saw the shift I was living through, even if they wouldn't name it. A few days later, a music school project brought another clue, unexpected and sharp, like a wrong note in a student's recital. I was designing a community workshop for young musicians, a project Nora had suggested, saying it would blend our passions. While reviewing applications for guest instructors, I found Julian's name, listed as a saxophonist with a note, recommended by Nora. Great chemistry. Chemistry. The word hit like a cymbal crash, and when I visited the venue to finalize details, I overheard Julian talking to a sound tech, his voice low but clear. "Nora and I stayed late after the last gig, best night in ages." His laugh, casual and confident, struck like a hammer, and when I glanced over, I saw the ticket stub on a table, its creased edge unmistakable, its J glinting in the stage lights. Mia, noticing my pause, asked if I was okay, her eyes kind but curious. I nodded, but the moment confirmed what he'd feared. Julian wasn't just a bandmate, he was the J in Nora's life, the man she'd chosen over me. I finished the workshop plans, but each step felt like a farewell, a final performance for a stage that no longer felt like ours. I didn't scream or break things. I planned, methodically, over 12 days, each step a quiet rebellion against the life I was losing, like a composer rewriting a score that no longer worked. I opened a new bank account, redirecting my paycheck to untangle our finances, a process that felt like dismantling a song we'd written together, chord by chord, measure by measure. I rented a storage unit in a gravel lot outside the city, moving boxes at night, while Nora slept, her soft snores a cruel contrast to my unraveling heart, each box a small farewell to the life I'd thought we'd share. I scanned documents, our lease, tax records, our marriage certificate, its ink faded, but still binding, saving them to a secure drive, a digital archive of a life I was leaving behind. I packed slowly, clothes folded with care, vinyl records he'd collected since college, Charlie's toys, and his favorite blanket. Each item a piece of me was reclaiming from the wreckage. The photo from our wedding, where Nora laughed under stage lights, her dress catching the breeze, went into storage, not because I couldn't bear to look at it, but because I didn't want her to have it, to hold on to a piece of me she'd discarded so easily. I wanted her to feel my absence, not my anger, to wake up to a loft that no longer held my echo, a space as empty as it felt 4 months, a stage stripped of its performer. The night I left, Nora was at another rehearsal, her voice bright as she called out a goodbye, promising to be back by 9, her cedarwood perfume trailing behind her like a ghost that no longer belonged in our home. I worked quickly, stripping the loft of me. No sneakers by the door, no denim jacket on the rack, no coffee mug in the sink, no trace of my daily routine's grading scales by the window. Playing piano in the evening, scratching Charlie's ears while he napped on his blanket. I unplugged my charger, packed my laptop, even took the worn copy of a Love Supreme liner notes I'd been studying, its words about struggle and redemption feeling too close now. The walls, once lined with our photos, us at a jazz festival, laughing over her missed notes, kissing under a venue's marquee, were bare, only nail holes remaining, like scars of a life erased, a song no longer played. I left one thing, a handwritten note on the kitchen counter, written on my music staff paper, my words steady but heavy, penned in the quiet of 2 a.m. The night before. Nora, I know about Julian, the concert ticket, the texts, your diary. I'm done being your backdrop, the steady one you don't see. "I'm gone. Goodbye." I took Charlie, his leash jingling softly as he trotted beside me, locked the door, and drove to a motel an hour away, the city lights fading in my rearview, the hum of the highway a lullaby to my fractured heart. I felt no triumph, only a hollow relief. Like setting down an instrument, it played along, the road stretching dark and open before me, like a blank score waiting to be written. I parked a blocks from the loft to watch, needing to see her reaction, to know if my absence registered in the carefully curated world shed built without me. At 10:45 p.m., her car pulled into the lot, her silhouette in a silk scarf, the kind shed started wearing 4 gigs, its fabric catching the streetlight's glow. Julian's motorcycle was parked nearby, a silent confirmation of the life shed chosen over ours. She walked in, carefree, her boots scuffing the floor, then froze in the doorway, her posture stiffening as if she'd sensed the void before seeing it. I saw her call my name once, twice, 3 times, her voice rising, then breaking into the silence, a sound swallowed by the empty loft. She flipped on lights, her violin case hitting the floor with a thud as she noticed the empty walls, the missing jacket, my side of the closet bare. She opened the fridge, found my labeled leftovers gone, the craft beer I liked, the sandwiches he'd made for lunch, even Charlie's food bowl missing, his water dish absent from its usual spots by the door. Her hand went to her mouth, but she didn't cry, just stood there, staring, as if waiting for me to walk back in with a laugh, saying it was a prank, that he'd never leave her, that I'd stay her steady rhythm forever. The teacher who'd keep her world in tune. I didn't. I drove back to the motel, its flickering neon sign buzzing like a heartbeat, and sat on the stiff bed, Charlie curled beside me, his warmth a small anchor in the storm. I wondered if he'd made the right choice, or just burned my life to the ground, the question looping in my mind like a melody stuck on a single, unresolved note. By morning, I expected her phone to light up mine, texts, calls, voicemails begging for answers, pleading for me to come back, promising to explain away the ticket, the texts, the lies. Nothing. Just one text at 11:22 p.m. "Ethan, where are you?" What's this? No panic, no tears, just mild confusion, as if he'd misplaced myself like a lost setlist, an inconvenience to her evening's performance. It crushed me, not because she didn't beg, but because she didn't seem shocked, as if she'd always known it'd fade eventually, that I was temporary, a backing track until someone like Julian came along, someone who made her feel alive in ways I apparently couldn't, someone who fit the new composition she was writing for her life. I didn't reply. I sat in the motel, sipping coffee that tasted like ash, staring at the peeling wallpaper, its faded stripes a mockery of the home we'd built together, a stage now stripped of its music. Had I been the fool all along, believing in a love shed outgrown years ago? Had I been blind to the signs, the late gigs, the new scarves, the way her kisses had become perfunctory, like playing a scale out of habit rather than passion? I thought of our first year together, how we'd dance in the kitchen to Billie Holiday, her laughter filling the air as I spun her clumsily, her hair catching the light like a spark in a dark venue. I'd thought those moments were the melody of something unbreakable, but maybe they were just improvisation, fleeting notes swept away to make room for a new song, one that didn't include me. 3 days passed with no follow-up, not from Nora, not from her sister, Lily, who'd always sent me playlists of obscure jazz, not even from Mia, the venue manager who'd invited me to open mix when Nora was too busy. The silence was deafening, a confirmation she'd moved on long before I packed my bags, that I'd been a ghost in my own marriage long before I left, haunting a loft that no longer needed my chords. I spent those days in a fog, walking Charlie along the motel's cracked parking lot, his tail wagging as he chased shadows, his trust in me a small comfort in the haze. I called my sister, Ava, who lived an hour away, her voice steady as she listened through my halting explanation, the words spilling out in a rush, like notes pouring from a saxophone in a desperate solo. "You're not crazy, Ethan," she said, her tone firm, like she was anchoring me from miles away. "She chose him over you. You don't owe her your pain. Not after she threw you away. She offered her spare room, a place to crash, but I declined. I needed solitude, not pity. Needed to face this alone before I could lean on anyone else. You're stronger than you think, she added, her voice softening, and I wanted to believe her, but I felt like a broken string, discarded after a performance, useless and out of tune. I kept seeing Leela, my therapist, twice a week now, her office a safe haven, where I could unravel the tangle of my thoughts without judgment, the drooping aloe plant in the corner a quiet reminder of my own struggle to survive. You're grieving, she said in our second session, her pen tapping softly against her notebook, her eyes kind but unflinching behind her glasses. Not just her, but the version of you that believed in her, the version that thought love was enough to keep her. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes, and admitted the truth. I'd spent years trying to be enough, molding myself to her needs, organizing her gig schedules, skipping my own compositions to be there for her rehearsals, cheering at her performances only to realize it'd been invisible to her long before Julian entered the picture. What did you want from her that you didn't get? Leela asked, her question a mirror I wasn't ready to face, its reflection showing a man who'd given everything and received only absence in return. I sat there, staring at the aloe, its leaves curling inward like my own heart, and said, I wanted her to see me, not as the guy who keeps things together, but as the man she chose, the one she loved. The words felt like a confession, a truth I'd buried under years of routine, under the weight of being the steady one, the reliable one, the one who never asked for more, because I thought love meant sacrifice. Leela leaned forward, her voice steady. You can't make someone see you, Ethan, but you can choose to see yourself, to value the man you are, not the role you played for her. On the fifth night, I drove back to our neighborhood, parking near the Blue Note, its neon sign glowing in the dusk, a place that had once been ours, but now felt like a stage for her new performance. Through the glass window, I saw Nora with Julian, her laugh bright and unburdened, the concert ticket stub on the table beside them, its creased edge glinting in the stage lights like a badge of her betrayal, its J catching the glow like a taunt. They sat close, his hand grazing her arm, her eyes sparkling in a way they hadn't for me in years, not since we'd stayed up late planning a future that felt possible, a loft filled with music and laughter, a life we'd composed together. I didn't feel anger, just a cold clarity. I'd been grieving a marriage shed already celebrated leaving, a truth that settled like frost in my bones, chilling but undeniable. I drove back to the motel, my hands steady on the wheel, and wrote in a journal I'd started, a cheap notebook from a gas station, its pages already curling at the edges. She didn't just betray me, she erased me, and I let her. No more. I'm not her backing track anymore. I'm composing my own song now. The words were a vow, not to her, but to myself, a promise to stop living in her shadow, to reclaim the man I'd been before I became her rhythm section, her safety net, her afterthought. The city's annual music festival, held 2 weeks later, became the moment Nora's lies unraveled publicly. I hadn't planned to attend, but Ava, my sister, insisted, driving in from her town with her usual fierce energy, her car packed with coffee and a determination to pull me out of my fork. You can't hide forever, she said, handing me a thermos as we parked near the festival grounds, the air thick with the scent of food trucks and the hum of guitars. Show them you're not the one who broke. The festival was a live crowd swaying to jazz and folk, stages lit with colorful lights, kids chasing glow sticks. I stayed on the edges, Charlie at my side, his leash loose in my hand, but I saw Nora across the field, laughing with Julian, the ticket stub tucked in her pocket, its edge visible. Mia, the venue manager, was there too, her eyes flicking between Nora and me, her expression tight with unspoken knowledge. During a band's set break, Ava took the stage mic, her voice steady but pointed. Music's about truth, she said, her gaze landing on Nora. Some of us have forgotten what that means. The crowd murmured, confused, but Ava's words landed like a cymbal crash, and I saw Nora's smile falter, her eyes darting to me, then away. Later, Ava cornered her by a merch table, her voice low but sharp, words I couldn't hear, but could feel, like a bow cutting through a false note. Nora's face paled, her hands clutching the ticket, and for the first time, she looked exposed, her carefully curated setlist crumbling under the weight of truth. I didn't stay to watch the fallout. I left with Ava, Charlie trotting beside us, the festival fading behind me, a song ending with every step. A month later, I ran into Lily, Nora's sister, at a record store downtown, her arms full of vinyls. "Ethan, you're here," she said, her voice hesitant, her eyes searching mine. "Heard you left." I nodded, clutching a Coltrane album, my heart racing as I weighed whether to speak. "Just browsing," I said, then added, "Ask Nora about Julian." "The concert ticket." Lily's eyes widened, her hand pausing on her records. "Julian, the sax guy." I thought she trailed off, realization dawning. "I'm sorry, Ethan," she whispered, but I shook my head. "Don't be. Just don't let her make me the bad guy." I walked away, feeling lighter, like it played a note that finally resolved, reclaiming a piece of the truth. 2 weeks later, I got an email from Dr. Leela Hart, whom had sent the diary photos, the texts, and a brief note explaining my absence. "Ethan, I'm so sorry," she wrote, her words measured, but heavy with empathy. "You deserved better. Nora's been in touch, but she's deflecting, blaming gig stress, her need for freedom. Take care of yourself, and let me know if you need to talk." The email lifted a weight, not because I needed validation, but because it confirmed I wasn't crazy, wasn't overreacting to a ticket and a hunch. It'd been erased, but I was done letting her write my score. I started running, the motel's nearby park a quiet refuge, its paths winding through oaks and wildflowers, the air sharp with city and sea. I bought a cheap keyboard, composing in the evenings, each note a small reclaiming of my passion, a melody it abandoned when I got too busy being Nora's rhythm section. I kept journaling, not about her, but about me, dreams I'd shelved, like writing a jazz album inspired by the city places I wanted to see, like the jazz clubs of New Orleans or the studios of Paris, the man I wanted to become, one who didn't flinch at his own reflection, who didn't measure his worth by someone else's applause. 4 months later, I moved to a small coastal hamlet I'd found by accident, driving aimlessly until the weight on my chest loosened, the road leading me to a place where the air smelled of salt and pine, a place that felt like a fresh chord, ready to be played. I rented a weathered cottage by the sea, its wooden porch overlooking crashing waves, its windows rattling in the wind. No Wi-Fi, just Charlie and the sound of the ocean, a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat, steady and alive. The hamlet was quiet, its streets lined with shingled houses and driftwood, its people kind but distant, offering nods as I passed with Charlie on his leash, his tail wagging like a metronome. I took a part-time job teaching music at a local school, each lesson a small act of creation, a way to rebuild myself. I started composing again, my jazz album taking shape, each note a brick in a new foundation, a song I was writing for myself, not for her. I ran every morning, the sea's roar clearing my lungs, my mind, the horizon stretching endless before me, like a score waiting for its melody. I journaled at night, not about Nora, but about the man I was becoming, someone who could laugh without checking for approval, who could dream without fear of losing it, who could stand in the quiet of his own company and feel whole. I thought of my father, who taught me piano as a kid, his hands steady as he guided mine, his voice low. "You don't need someone else to make your music, Ethan. The notes are enough if you know how to play them." I hadn't understood then, too young to see the lesson, too busy chasing a life I thought would complete me. But now, in the stillness of the cottage, with Charlie's warmth beside me and the scratch of my pencil on paper, I was starting to understand, each sunrise a small confirmation, each breath a step toward myself. Nora sent one letter, left in the loft's mailbox, when I made a final trip to collect stray mail, my last tie to the life I'd left behind. No real apology, just, "I didn't mean to hurt you, Ethan. I miss us, but I needed more than steady. I hope you're okay. I read it under a flickering street lamp, the paper trembling in my hands, then left it under the mailbox's rusting lid, its words fading like sea foam on the shore, no longer able to reach me. I drove back to the hamlet, the ocean shimmering under a starlit sky, the road a promise of something new. Last month, I met Sophie at an open mic in the next town, a guitarist with a warm laugh and a love for blues, her hands calloused from strings like mine. We're not dating, just sharing coffee at a diner with checkered tablecloths, talking about music and stories and second chances. But it feels like possibility, a chord I didn't know I could play, a note I didn't know I could hit. The concert ticket didn't break me, it was the spark that burned away a life he'd outgrown, a fire that cleared the ground for something real, something mine. I think of my father again, his words clearer now. The notes are enough if you know how to play them. I see it in the way Charlie chases waves on the beach, in the weight of a pencil in my hand, in the quiet of a night where I don't check my phone for Nora's name. I'm not healed, not completely some nights. I still wake up reaching for a hand that isn't there, but I'm whole, or getting there. Betrayal didn't shatter me, it taught me I could walk away and still play my own song, that I could compose a life from the ashes of one I thought I needed. Thanks for listening to my confession. If you've ever felt erased by someone you loved, share your story below. What historical figure's quiet, bold choice changed everything for them? Maybe a musician who walked away from fame, or a composer who chose solitude over glory. Drop your thoughts in the comments. You're watching End Stories, where truth rebuilds what lies destroy.